Hey Tilly, welcome back to another video, or hello if you are new. I've got some exciting news. There's animals in this video. There's not been any animals in my zoo yet. We're on episode 8, and there's not a single animal in sight. But today that is going to change. Because not only do I finish the flamingo habitat, but I also start making a lynx habitat. The otters are later. I don't put the otters in just yet, but you know, things are coming along. Flamingo habitat today. Next episode, I work on this for the lynx. I work on this like viewing area in their den, and I think it turned out pretty cool. So you'll see that next episode. In episode 10, we're gonna do the Flamingo bar and grill and like some of the exterior things in that area, because I don't quite finish that in this episode. I do work on that later. Then episode 11 is gonna be otters, and then just a whole bunch more stuff is coming up. But as I said, there are finally animals in this episode, and it's going to be very exciting. Not yet though. Right now I am working on this. I didn't really know what kind of building this was going to be initially. My basic idea is that it would be a place that you rent for parties, and so but also, you know, like some exhibits, and I had no idea what I was going to put in this habitat. I just wanted something like some low water. I wasn't sure if I was actually even going to make it into a habitat. I did actually. I put the Nile monitors in here, and I think I do like so much extra work to this once I decide to put the Nile monitors in that little space. Obviously, I, give them some other space as well, because it's fully water right now, and there's no fully aquatic animals in Planet Zoo. They all need some land space. But yeah, so the start of this video is me framing some more things, and then I go through the flamingo habitat. So I have the barrier is done of the flamingo habitat, but I still had to put at this point all of the plants, and in order to put all of the plants, I like to have the flamingos in there, because I'm like constantly checking if the area is traversable or not. And I do initially, when I put the animals in, I do put the filters on for their proper terrain, like biome. So with the plants, if they're from like a tropical in a grassland area, let's say, then I do check those filters, and I do try to stick to their biome, their continent, all the filters that you can apply to, like the ones that if you have the plant requirements checked on, you need to fulfill all those requirements, making sure it's from the area that the animal is actually from in order for them to accept that plant. I do that at the beginning. I try my best. I always try my best to build the habitats with it as much natural plant species that I can, but I'm gonna be honest, it limits me too much. There's not always like a good grass piece in all of the biomes, and there's also just like those apple custard bushes are literally my favorite bush in game. Maybe there's one other bush that I use all the time also, and to me it looks like it could fit in any biome, frankly, for the most part. Maybe not the desert, but most of the ones that actually have like grass and rain and like sun, I can see this plant. It doesn't look like it's specific to a certain biome. Like some of the tropical plants look very specific, and that's fine. And that's good in some cases. But in me building for aesthetic, I just find it way too limiting to be stuck with just the natural species for that. The natural plant species that should be associated with that animal. So after I go through all of I fill it up as much as possible with the actual required plants, and then I say screw it, and I take all the filters off and I add whatever the heck I want at that point, which most of the time is just grass and like filler plants. Like that apple custard plant it's like a filler for me. It's big, which is why I like it, because it looks like it just takes up a lot of space, and it looks full when you have a bunch of plants like that. The animals, you lose the traversable area when you have so many plants like that, but it's okay because I always build habitats too big, so I don't ever have a problem with that typically. Though now that I say that, I did have that issue with the flamingo habitat in particular, because it wasn't because of the plants, it was because of the rocks that I put on the shore. It just it messed up their navigation, and so they were like, I don't have enough water anymore, even though they did. They definitely did. It was just me, but I didn't want to take it away because I like the aesthetic, so I just made like a second pool in the back for them, and it's pretty much hidden from the guests, but the flamingos can use it, and that's what's important, and they still come up to the front because that's where all of their eating and like enrichment items are. So yeah, this habitat that I'm building right now, or that I'm framing out, is actually the Bengal tiger habitat. I think it's the Bengal tigers. It's a tiger. I originally was thinking that this was going to be the African penguin exhibit, but I decided to go for like the more endangered animal, and it worked out well the way it was for a tiger habitat, because the viewing area is tall enough that the tigers cannot reach the guests, which is important. But it could still be open, which I liked. So yeah, these are the rocks that messed up the terrain for the flamingos so much. I just love these aquatic rocks. They're my favorite rock in the game. The favorite rock set, I guess. I like the large ones, the like cylinder shaped ones, and I like these rocks that you can put into the ground because they look like small, kind of almost like pebble-like, to make the shore more dynamic. And then if you couple that with some plants, it looks like pretty natural to me in a way. So as you can see, I'm building all of these rock structures, and then something I do throughout all of the habitats in the zoo is so even though this zoo is meant, its focus is conservation, and they obviously care, they have huge habitats for their animals, right? But they still put this element of like, this like manufactured human structure in all the habitats to make it more interesting. I don't know. It's just a theme that I use throughout. So I always have like this, I think I use limestone for almost all of it. And I end up doing like stairs into the water, or like some kind of other like walkway structure, or something. What did I do in the otter habitat? I have like this raised column that has some enrichment item on it, and it's got like stairs up around it, and I just thought it looked cool. I put it because, you know, the guests can view it from the pathway, and they can also view it from up above on the overlook. And so I figured no matter where the guests are, where they're looking from, if the otters are up there, they can see them. And I think that's cool. So that's something I do throughout all of the habitats. And I think it just makes the habitats look a little more cohesive. Even if it looks unnatural, like, that's almost the point, you know? Is to have these unnatural structures that make it clear that this is actually, it's still a resort, you know? It's still something man-made, and you know, it's not necessarily bad for the animals. It's just, you know, people have to take care of these like, the reason that these animals are endangered is because people have not taken care of them, and now they're sort of forced to be in these areas where they have to live in human man-made structures. They don't have a choice anymore because, you know, we've destroyed the environment, and all these animals that were just doing their thing are now suffering for it. But anyway, let's keep this a little lighthearted. We don't need to go into all that. It's obviously important to me, the conservation aspect, and I obviously want this video to still be fun to watch, so yeah. Just a lot of plant work in this episode. And like I said, I think I put the links in later. And so I do build some... I don't remember if I built the cave, if I started building the cave in this episode. But it took me a long time, and it actually... I wasn't super happy with the way it looks from... It looks great from, like, inside the viewing area when you're looking into the cave. The inside of the cave looks great. The outside, not so much. I had to struggle with that section because the lynx can jump really high. And so I initially built this cave just on the edge of the barrier, obviously, so the guests can kind of look in. But then it turns out that the lynx could jump on top of the cave and escape. And that's not good. So I ended up having to basically make it more square so that the lynx did not have access to the top. And it was like roughly the same height as the barrier. And so it doesn't, in my opinion, look quite as good that way. But I had to do it to make the habitat safe. And I don't know, I was debating changing it, but then when I put all the plants in that habitat, in the lynx habitat, you can't really see it anymore from the opposite side of the viewing. So I just left it. You can kind of see it in the background. It looks a little ugly, but it's not the focus. And you won't, unless you're looking for it, I don't think you'll actually notice how ugly it is. So yeah, it all worked out in the end. And I brought the theme of, like, them living in these man-made structures into the cave viewing, because the cave itself for the animals looks quite natural, but then the viewing section for the people is like this partial building that I did like more faux rocks on to make the wall look like it's almost a continuation of the cave, but it's obviously not, because it's a completely different color and it's very obviously human, you know, pristine in that human way. It's not natural at all. And yeah, I think it's interesting. I am trying to make somewhat unique things in this zoo in terms of my, like, viewing areas and some of the decor throughout the the paths, I mean. I don't know what my brain is doing recently. These last few episodes, I've made some very horrible mistakes in speaking, and wow. Sorry about that. This is what happens when I record like 4 episodes back to back. I just lose my brain. It's just gone. I also had a full day of work today, so that could be part of the reason that I am flubbing about. Yeah. I'm still technically on break. I have tomorrow off, but my husband also has tomorrow off, so I think we're gonna, you know, hang out or something. I don't know what we'll do yet, but I'm not gonna sit here and record these voiceovers when he's sitting right next to me playing his games, because, you know, that's not fair. He should be able to make sound at his desk. I don't want to force him to stay silent. So I'm trying to record all of these voiceovers as quickly as I can. One, to prepare so that I make sure I stay consistent on my YouTube channel. But also, I'm taking advantage of the time that my husband is not home, so that I can record these and then I can edit them later when he's around. Because you know, obviously it doesn't matter what I'm doing on my computer when he's home. But yeah, here is the walkway that is on the opposite side of the flamingo viewing, which is part of the reason it gets a little congested here. This is as wide as the path goes, but they just, for some reason, they just like to hang out right at the start of this flamingo habitat, and they don't like spread out through this whole walkway. It, like, if they moved all the way around, and especially if they came to this sort of circular part where the path connects into different areas, so it's wider there, and it wouldn't be such a cluster if they just stood here instead of immediately outside of the entrance building. But what can you do? The guests say it is what it is, I suppose. And yeah, overall though, I'm very happy with the way that you kind of come into the zoo and see this flamingo habitat and the, you know, the nice walkway and whatnot. It's not all decorated like that. There is more open space later on, but for the most part I just tried to make this entrance as sort of like charming as possible. Which is also why you see the Flamingo Bar and Grill like kind of immediately when you walk in and you look across the flamingo habitat, and you can see like other guests dining and having their experience too. And I think there's something kind of cool about that. But yeah, the video is just about over, so I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to give the video a like, subscribe to my channel if you want to see more content from me, and check back to this playlist if you want to see these speed builds specifically. I hope to see you in the next video. Until then, bye!